I think I got the job because I was qualified. Of course, there was an advert that ran that gave the qualifications required, so I think I was qualified. I also think I got the job because there was something they were looking for, an infusion of both old hands and new ideas. So I think I came in the new ideas group. And I think I got the job because I really worked hard for it over the many years.
Yeah.
By the time I was applying for it, I really wanted it.
Did you know you'd get it?
No, of course.
You didn't know?
No. That's why I applied for. Of course, with 9,500 applications, you realize that the bar has been set up so high. Mm. So what we did is I myself prepared thoroughly for that interview. I thought that I'm sitting in as principal secretary, and for that reason, we really put in a lot of effort and time because I was saying I might get it, I will get it, and so this information is not going to go to waste. I'll still use it when I take over. The panel was quite something, quite friendly from where I sit, so I did not feel like I was under a lot of pressure or relevant questions to the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. It was very easy for us who did the politics of Kenya Kwanza because we kept on interacting with the plan. So it was easy to figure out what the new government regime's administrative priorities were. And that was majorly where the interview was headed towards. Yeah. Yes.
Silvia, where were you when you heard the news that you were appointed? Where were you?
I was driving from Laikipia coming to Nairobi. I was en route.
And someone called you or?
Someone sent me a WhatsApp message. So I was actually coming to pick a few of my things because I had just been nominated as a CEC in Laikipia. Oh. I was just ready to settle in now to work for the people of Laikipia. And then I was excited. I was happy.
So you had a choice. You could either have gone to become a CEC or...
I was in by fire.
Big desk?
Actually, very big desk. Week one also, the entire 1 month was just baptism by fire. We thought you'd have an induction where you'd be told this is what you're supposed to do and this is what you're not supposed to do. You learn that you have to learn on the job. For me, I think my day one was walking in a very small girl, literally in terms of physique and age, and meeting a service full of technocrats and people who've been serving for a very long time and trying to prove yourself that you know your stuff. And I think I really thank God and I thank the president that I went to wildlife because it is one thing that I really love and I enjoy and it is what I was born into. So, and I have been reading too much because it's the only way you actually prove that you are worth that position. So that by the time they're even telling me their budgets are, I can tell them the last 0.20 cents. So then they're like, okay, you are in the right place. Oh. So for me, day one was, the first impression you make on people. Yeah. It's how you're going to run the next many years together. And also, of course, people are able to read energy. It was just to say, I am here, I'm to provide leadership. The government is a very efficient machinery. Yes. You realize that they are all the right people at the right places.
Okay, are your colleagues helpful over there? Or...
Very. Yeah? Very, very.
Because some people, they're not very happy about other people being promoted and they get very jealous. So that happens everywhere.
I honestly believe if you send positive vibe and energy, it shall come back to you.
Okay.
Early mornings. Yeah. Deliverables. You go sit on your desk and it is very clear what you're supposed to do. Since Nanyuki and after Nanyuki for the next 2-3 weeks, it was to say what do we do in the short term, what do we do in the next financial year, and what do we do in the next 5 years. You realize that we've come on board in between the financial year 2022-2023. Yeah. So we have to work very quickly round the clock on the budget that there is and see how do we infuse the Kenya Kwanza manifesto priorities and what are we able to capture in the next financial year. So a man who keeps time, everybody knows that. If you're told to be in State House at 8, you'll be there 5 minutes to 8. We work, I honestly really enjoy working with his Council of Economic Advisors generally, because you tap into very solid brains, people who've been in service for years. I work very closely with Mohammed Ali, who is the climate change advisor, and Dr. Ndi, of course. And most of them have been PSs. Monica Juma has been a PS. Adan Mohammed has been a CS. So it is very easy to, if I do not need to necessarily reach the president, in not in a bad way, but there is a good brain around him that is accessible. So there is someone to continuously check, do these priorities still align? Do they not? So it is easy now because we all have our priorities set. For me, for instance, I know human-wildlife conflict is on top of my list. And I have to think through how to pay, compensate to the victims of either death, injury, predation, crops damage, because that is money that goes directly to the people, the hustlers' mashinani. And think around how do I develop an insurance scheme so that it doesn't need to take 10 years for you to be compensated. You realize that the human-wildlife conflict spike is on, there is a serious rise because of the drought situation. So basically working for President William Ruto is you think on your feet. It is early mornings and late nights. It is a lot of consultation. It is breaking silos. There is no saying this is Ministry of Water. There is water for humans. There is water for agriculture and irrigation. There is water for wildlife. So while you sit there and say you're Ministry of Water, you have to supply water to everybody. And that money does not need to come to wildlife. But Ministry of Water needs to find how that water gets into the national parks and game reserves we have. Yeah. And for almost everything else. So we've really been breaking silos. We've been trying to think together as a government. Previously, everybody used to go and try and find a budget for themselves. So that if it is water, it is their budget. So we are no longer following money, we are following functions. If it is health, how do you ensure that there is enough? For instance, if it is trade, how do you ensure that remittances from diaspora, that agriculture is contributing to trade, that value addition, that there's a lot of linkage between livestock now in agriculture and trade because of leather. So it is a holistic government. It is a government about the people. It's not about the offices. If the U.S. ambassador who we hosted today came to our office, she said she had the same discussion with the Ministry of Environment and they agreed for these things. It will be KWS, KFS. So it is a government that is very holistic. It is an approach that is people-centered. And of course, we all know that we will not survive if we do not deliver. It is clear in my mind. But 1 year later, I have to tell the president. Yeah. I found revenue collection in the national parks at this amount, and so now we are here. That I found a bill of human-wildlife conflict compensation at this amount, been able to clear this. How you clear, you innovate with. And I'm using his think tank of advisors to innovate with. So a lot of demands, but also a lot of support to me. I would finish with what Umi started by saying, of course, I'm extremely grateful to the president for this appointment, to God even for this opportunity, and understand there's a lot of expectations on our shoulders, not just because of ourselves as young ladies, but because of the entire Kenya Kwanza government. Too many pledges made to the people. My closing remarks is that the president, who is the vision bearer for this country, is focused, is determined. Every conversation starts and ends with, how is that good for the people? How does that impact directly to the people? What does conservation for you look like to the benefit of the people? Yeah. And I want to assure all the players within the wildlife sector, there are many, that, and there are many conflicting interests therein, but there can be a win-win situation. We can have this resource to the benefit of everyone if we use it sustainably and if we plan for it well, including planning for drought that we are anticipating before the end of this year. But finally, very grateful to my CS, my fellow PSs in the State Department, and all my colleagues. It is one big family. We meet a lot of times. We keep on talking, myself and the PS for environment, myself and the PS for blue economy. It's just one big happy family that is joined together because of a lot of pressure. So everybody's asking, have you been called to State House? And like, are we being called again?
Yeah.
Yes, you'll go by Friday. How was it last time? So we keep on checking on each other. The pressure is immense, but the goodwill is there. And we can assure Kenyans that it might, like just the president said, it might take a bit of time to turn around things. It's sanctity of life. But if you understand it also as creation that we have to take care of, one, and two, as a very serious source of revenue for this country, then we will look at wildlife differently. If we come to drought, we are talking about loss of large numbers of course, the wild beast was the most affected. We lost about 300 heads of elephants. We lost a lot of zebras. But that number does not sink, unfortunately, to people. It is not something that causes sadness because they do not see benefit. And for me, on top, after HWC, human wildlife conflict, my second biggest goal is to make sure that wildlife as a resource work for communities, that communities actually benefit. As it is right now, there is not enough sharing of benefits to communities. People have surrendered their land for wildlife conservation, refrained from livelihoods like livestock keeping, and that is why you see from where I come in Laikipia is a cat and mouse game. We keep on bringing the livestock to the parks. They keep on confiscating us for illegal grazing. We burn down the lodges. They come out. It's just a whole vicious cycle. So I think we need to relook at how that resource, because it's a very important resource. When you look at the seventh wonder of the world, or now eighth, as the wild-based migration of Serengeti, Masai Mara, and there is so much underutilized parks in this country. So while we are suffering, where elephants have now invaded Njogu's, she called me to say her father's farm was invaded by my elephants.
It's true, and I want her to pay my father's farm for, the cassava, the everything, compensation.
And I told her she has to wait. She's in the queue. I have not compensated the 2014 claims.
Right.
So the perception of communities on wildlife is such that it is something that gives them pain. And they do not accrue benefit directly from them. We have new conservation models coming up that are a source of debate, whether they are working for communities better or not. Of course, you will not imagine the level of interest in wildlife, even at the international level. We have serious players in conservation in this country, serious investments from within and without, and debate, whether they are working for communities better or not. Of course, you will not imagine the level of interest in wildlife, even at the international level. We have serious players in conservation in this country, serious investments from within and without. And for instance, the drought situation, and we are foreseeing a drought situation. We did not have rains for the last quarter of 2021. We did not have sufficient rains in 2022. I did an overview of Savo last weekend. Half of Savo is completely dry. The other half of Savo is completely green. Both Savos, the green and the dry one, there's no water. So even if there's pasture and there's no pasture, they have to come out and get water. And so I have really been escalating this conversation about water for wildlife. But until we have communities better benefiting from that resources, and you realize that the conservancies and the protected areas are usually around community areas. Amboseli is within the communities of Kajiado, especially the pastoralists, and I dare say the Maasai community, they host the largest. And for a long time we coexisted. But of course, climate change effects. So we are all competing for the same small resources. And if we do not share resources, even at the budget-making process, we are in for trouble.
We're in trouble, yeah. Absolutely. Umi, you mentioned Madonna was in town not too long ago.
Oh, yes.
Did you meet her?
No, sadly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bill Gates was in town as well. A lot of people have been passing through Kenya, huh?
Yeah. We need to up our game in terms of celebrities and, international persons who can be of great importance to our tourism sector. maybe one way we can do that is work with their people, especially with the tourism part of the ministry, so that we have at least we get to meet them and have the itinerary, take them to the Mara, and so that they can also experience our cultures. A place that I would like to actually touch on is